Hello and welcome to our morning edition of Arirang News. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour. South Korean prosecutors are seeking a 15-year jail term for Keon-hee, the wife of former President Yoon Suk-yeol, who has been indicted for bribery, stock manipulation, and other charges, and is currently on trial. The Seoul Central District Court is due to deliver its verdict on January 28th. Marking the first anniversary of the brief imposition of martial law, President Lee Jae-myung praised the Korean people's peaceful efforts to block military rule and suggested designating December 3rd as an official holiday. Tariffs on South Korean cars exported to the United States have now officially been lowered to 15%. The new measure will take effect retroactively to November 1st for vehicles and auto parts. We begin this morning with the latest on investigations against former First Lady Keon-hee. A special counsel team is now demanding a 15-year jail term for Kim, the wife of former President Yoon Suk-yeol, who has been indicted of multiple charges, including stock manipulation and violating the Political Funds Act. And this afternoon, she faces questioning about allegations that Kim accepted jewelry and other high-value luxury items. Our Lee Seung-jae starts us off.
A special counsel team has requested a 15-year prison sentence for former First Lady Keon-hee, marking one of the most significant legal developments involving a presidential spouse in South Korea's recent history. The request came on Wednesday during the final hearing of her trial at the Seoul Central District Court. The special counsel, led by Myung-bo, indicted Kim in August on multiple charges that include violating the Capital Market Act, violating the Political Funds Act, and breaching laws that prohibit the acceptance of bribes for mediation. These charges stem from a series of allegations that investigators say point to a sustained pattern of influence peddling and financial misconduct. The most serious charge centers on claims that Kim conspired with the former head of Deutsche Motors, a BMW car dealer in Korea, as well as a close associate, to manipulate the company's stock price between 2010 and 2012. Prosecutors say the scheme generated more than $545,000 in illegal profits. For this charge alone, the special counsel asked the court to impose 11 years in prison, along with a fine of around $1.3 million and a forfeiture of $558,000. The prosecutors also raised allegations that Kim received luxury gifts worth roughly $54,000 from an official linked to the Unification Church in 2022. According to investigators, the gifts were delivered through a shaman and were tied to requests for business favors. Kim and her husband, ousted former President Yoon Suk-yeol, are also suspected of receiving free opinion polling service valued at around $184,000 ahead of the 2022 presidential election. Prosecutors say the polling was arranged by a self-described power broker who expected Kim to help secure the nomination of former lawmaker Kim Young-sun for a parliamentary by-election later that same year. For this charge, the special counsel requested a 4-year prison term and the forfeiture of $93,000. The court has scheduled a sentencing hearing for January 28th, a date that's expected to draw intense national attention. Meanwhile, beginning Thursday, the special counsel will open a new round of questioning into separate allegations that Kim accepted high-value luxury items, including jewelry from influential business figures. Investigators say the additional probe will focus on whether those items were linked to requests for government appointments or other forms of political favors. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
December 3rd marked the first anniversary of former President Yoon Suk-yeol's martial law declaration. President Lee Jae-myung proposed designating this day as an official public holiday and said that the Korean people deserve the Nobel Peace Prize for promoting democracy. Our senior presidential office correspondent Yoon Jung-min reports.
Exactly 1 year after the martial law declaration, President Lee Jae-myung praised the Korean people's peaceful efforts to block military rule while condemning the incident itself, calling both the attempted coup and the civic resistance unprecedented in a 21st century democracy.
역설적이게도 지난 12.3 쿠데타는 우리 국민들의 높은 주권의식과 대한민국 민주주의의 놀라운 회복력을 세계 만방에 알린 계기가 됐습니다.
President Lee on Wednesday issued a special statement, first anniversary of the Revolution of Light. He proposed designating December 3rd as a day of people's sovereignty and making it an official public holiday, expressing gratitude to citizens who stood unarmed against martial law forces and tanks on the night martial law was declared. He added that the Korean people fully deserve the Nobel Peace Prize for their actions.
온 세계에 민주주의의 위대함을 알린 공로로 노벨 평화상을 받는다면 갈등과 분열로 흔들리는 모든 국가들에게 크나큰 전환점이 될 것입니다.
With investigations and trials still underway, Lee reiterated his pledge to ensure that those involved are held accountable, saying they must be judged for attempting to undermine the constitutional order out of private greed and even plotting a war with a foreign entity.
다시는 쿠데타를 꿈조차 꿀 수 없는 나라, 누구도 국민 주권의 빛을 위협할 수 없는 나라를 만들기 위해서라도 정의로운 통합은 필수입니다.
When it comes to establishing a special tribunal to handle insurrection charges, now under discussion at the National Assembly, Lee said he believes lawmakers will make a wise decision. He gave a similar response when questioned about a possible extension of the special counsel probe. The message of democracy and the rule of law carried into a luncheon later in the day, as the president invited 5 key figures, including the National Assembly Speaker and the Supreme Court Chief Justice, to the presidential office. Yoo Jung-min, Arirang News.
And 1 year after the martial law declaration that shook the nation, a massive nighttime rally was held outside the National Assembly, bringing an end to a full day of remembrance events. Our political correspondent Moon Hae-ryun has this report.
A large rally outside the National Assembly on Wednesday night marked the climax of a full day of commemorative events held to observe the first anniversary of former President Yoon Suk-yeol's martial law declaration. People filled the streets despite below-freezing temperatures, with music, speeches and banners recalling last year's nationwide protests, setting a charged, energetic tone.
It feels like time has flown by. Some issues have been resolved, while others remain, but as a citizen I will continue to work hard to address even those that haven't been resolved.
Lawmakers from the ruling Democratic Party and members of other liberal parties also joined the rally, standing with the public as they reflected on the events of a year ago. The nighttime rally capped a day of programs and exhibitions held throughout the National Assembly compound. Beginning in the morning, visitors were invited to view a photo exhibition documenting scenes from the hours when martial law was in effect. The collection includes images of military vehicles, civic resistance, and the historic plenary session in which all 190 lawmakers present voted unanimously to demand the lifting of martial law, a moment many consider a turning point in the crisis. A series of guided dark tours also launched on Wednesday, offering the public a first-hand look at key locations tied to the events of last year. National Assembly Speaker Won-sik led the inaugural tour himself on the first day, walking participants through the fence he climbed to enter the building, the second-floor entrance where lawmakers confronted martial law troops, and the grounds where military helicopters landed. Special displays now mark each site, and the tours will continue through Friday. The anniversary program continued late into the evening with a media facade projection on the outer walls of the assembly, recounting the timeline of the crisis and its aftermath. Combining videos shot from a year ago with performances and music to commemorate the occasion, the 20-minute show offered a reflection on the events that took place a year before and all that followed, drawing crowds well into the night.
Standing here 1 year on, the National Assembly now serves both as a memorial space and as a reminder of how decisively the public and lawmakers acted in a moment of crisis. Moon Hae-ryun, Arirang News.
The The recent data breach at South Korea's e-commerce giant Coupang that resulted in the personal data of more than 33 million customers being leaked marked the worst incident of its kind in the country in more than a decade. For more on the legal aspects of this case, we're joined today by Song Se-ryun, professor of law at Keon-hee University. Professor Song, thanks for joining us this morning.
Happy to join you. So,
Coupang data breach, it's the latest in a series of cybersecurity incidents in companies here in South Korea, including SK, KT, and Lotte Card. And this prompted legislative efforts to strengthen information security, right? What's your take on this?
And that's exactly right. This is not a one-off event, and there were a series of breaches like this. So it's becoming pretty clear that the data breach preparedness has not kept up with technology. It has not kept up with the risks it is proposing. So I think that one response from our legislator, the faster reporting and tougher sanctions, is one way to do it, but I don't think it's a complete picture. I think the technologically and the mindset itself has to be changed. What I mean by that is nowadays the data is a resource that not only is a domain of private companies, but it's like a infrastructure. It's like a public goods where the government has to make more investments and have a regulations that would make it possible that benefits a more broader base of companies and also consumers.
Right, and more than 500,000 users have already filed joint lawsuits through local law firms. How do you think the legal battle against Coupang will play out?
Well, 500,000 people, that's an impressive number. That shows how the consumers are reacting to this kind of breaches. But historically, this kind of class action lawsuits doesn't benefit the individuals that much. I mean, the previous numbers that we saw is in the range of 100,000 won to 300,000 won. But I think the signaling is pretty significant. I think that the biggest winner in this kind of lawsuit are the lawyers themselves, organizing this kind of action against the big companies. But I think that the symbolic value is there, that this kind of breaches will gather more consumer interest and also more active action, resulting in more class action lawsuits.
I see. So there's more of a symbolic meaning to that. And there's also a possibility that the fines imposed on Coupang by the government could reach an all-time high. And authorities are reportedly considering some measures such as suspending business operations and imposing fines that could possibly reach up to 1 trillion Korean won. And that's over $682 million, I believe. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, it's in step with the global trend. I think that Europe has shown some examples that tougher sanctions, including a percentage of their revenues, is a way to go, because it sends a very big signal to the companies themselves. But like I said, this is not just about a sanctions or the bigger fines issue, but it's the issue that should be dealt with technologically and also governance aspects of it. I think that rather than sending the bigger kind of a punishment or the penalties, I think the government should make it more of a governance issue that the companies has to comply in terms of making it more clear who's responsible and how they will be responsible for. So I think the board members and the CEOs and those people who are in charge of making this a cybersecurity a safe one, those people and those institutions and the governance structure would be more prominent going forward.
Right, and speaking of those in charge, Coupang founder Kim Bum-seok has faced a lot of criticism for remaining silent on this issue. Does he bear any legal responsibility?
Well, from the legal point of view, he's pretty in a safe place because of the responsibilities being faced off, and then just because he's a founder, it does not automatically slaps him with the responsibility. I mean, that's what the corporate structure is for. And on top of that, he's an American citizen, and he has moved away from active management of the company. His liability probably will be a big burden to overcome if they want to sue him. However, I think that there's again, the governance responsibility in Europe, even if the law protects you from the liability in terms of structures. But if he has a control over the company and operation, I think that the court will pierce the veil and get him to be more responsible. But in this case, probably it's going to be a big battle. But I think that from the marketing and also public opinion's point of view, I think the responsibility, moral responsibility, is there. I'm not sure about the legal one right away, but I think that his action, contrite, and the public message and the measures he can take on as a founder probably will be more significant.
I see. I guess we'll have to see how the situation plays out. All right, Professor Song, thank you so much for your insight today. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
South Korean automobiles exported to the United States are now effectively subject to a 15% tariff rate, applied retroactively to November 1st for vehicles and auto parts. The U.S. Federal Register published the official notice on Wednesday, implementing the tariff elements of the U.S.-Korea Strategic Trade and Investment Deal, with the notice going into effect on Thursday. For other key sectors, the effective date is November 14th. This specifically covers civil aircraft parts as well as timber, lumber, and derivative wood products. This move operationalizes the bilateral agreement following the recent summit finalizing the exchange of South Korea's pledge of $350 billion in investment for U.S. tariff adjustments and extended security cooperation. And shifting gears to sports, South Korean national football team head coach Myung-bo arrived in the United States on Wednesday ahead of the upcoming 2026 World Cup group draw. Speaking to reporters upon arrival at Dulles International Airport, Hong said that qualifying for the World Cup is a great honor, both personally and for the team. He said that the real start of the World Cup comes once the groups are finalized, but added that it's still too early to predict ideal opponents or which team South Korea hopes to avoid. The official draw will take place on Friday at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C.
Good morning, I'm Chu Ji-hyun, and this is The World Now. In the United States, President Donald Trump told reporters he does not want Somali immigrants in the country and said that they should, quote, go back to where they came from, as he criticized Somalia and Minnesota's Somali community. His comments on Tuesday came as U.S. immigration authorities were reported to be preparing an enforcement operation targeting undocumented Somalis in Minnesota, home to the largest Somali population in the U.S. Local officials in Minneapolis and St. Paul expressed concerns that ICE operation could sweep up American citizens and violate due process. Minnesota's governor also denounced what he called an indiscriminate PR stunt. The operation is expected to begin this week, according to U.S. media reports. In eastern Ukraine, Russian forces struck the city of Sloviansk with 9 aerial bombs on Wednesday, wounding at least 8 people, including 2 children. According to the Donetsk regional governor Vadim Filashchikin, 1 bomb hit a residential building, causing major damage. Reuters footage showed rescuers cutting through debris while residents searched what remained of their homes. The governor urged civilians to evacuate, warning there are no safe places left in the Donetsk region. In the U.S. on Wednesday, a California doctor was sentenced to 30 months in federal prison for supplying ketamine to Friends star Matthew Perry, who died of an overdose in 2023. The doctor, Salvador Plasencia, is the first among 5 people charged in the federal investigation into how Perry obtained the drug. He pleaded guilty to distributing ketamine and was also ordered to pay a $5,600 fine. Perry's family made a statement calling Plasencia the most culpable and saying he violated his duty to protect the actor. In the U.S., House Democrats released photos and videos from Jeffrey Epstein's private island in the U.S. Virgin Islands on Wednesday. The images taken in 2020 by law enforcement show the inside of his property, including bedrooms, an office-like room, and a space with a dentist chair. The lawmakers said the release aims to increase public transparency ahead of this year's December 19th deadline for the Justice Department to disclose related files. The island was central to previous allegations that dozens of young women and children were trafficked and abused there.
It was even colder this morning than yesterday. The wind chill pushed temperatures down to minus 12 degrees Celsius here in the capital this morning. And we stayed below freezing all day yesterday, but highs will go up higher this afternoon. Then starting tomorrow afternoon, we can look forward to some relief. Despite the cold, we have snow to talk about. The first snowfall of this winter is in the forecast for the capital area, with up to 5 centimeters expected from this afternoon into tonight. Then 1 to 8 centimeters are expected for eastern parts of Gyeonggi-do and Gangwon-do provinces. So please take care on the roads, and it is best if you could leave your car and use public transportation for traveling. And this afternoon's high gets up to 2 degrees Celsius, Daejeon topping out at just 4 degrees. Meanwhile, the air along the east coast is very dry, with dry weather alerts being expanded. So please stay alert for potential fire hazard. This round of severe cold is expected to ease gradually heading into the weekends. Until then, take care.
That's all we have for this morning. Arirang News will be back at noon Korea time. Thanks for watching.